Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cosmere Connections. We're a bunch of book-loving nerds trying to find the secrets of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere as we reread the entirety of its story from Book 1 to Book 16 billion. Today, we are joined by Swiggity Swoo.
What a lovely intro, my friend. Let's get to podcasting.
We've got John.
It's morphin' time!
Kay is thankfully here.
Just because it hasn't happened that way in the past doesn't mean it shouldn't happen.
And I'm ReaderWarrior. And today we're going to be talking about Mistborn, the Well of Ascension, Part 3, Chapters 35 through 38.
Good intro, Kay. You were ready with a line, ready to go.
And you were the only person on topic, too.
That was good.
Listen, I was ready. That's actually a line from this section, so you know.
Well, since we're on theme, apparently, let's get into Chapter 35 then.
Okay, now I get to do 35. Meant to do it last week, wasn't here. You know, here we go.
We missed you.
Now, plague free.
So, this chapter, Vin and Ellen are going to dinner with Set at Keep Hasting. Vin is wearing a maroon ball gown, and she's kind of remembering like what it was like to go to the balls and kind of reminiscing about that a little bit with Ellen as well. She's at the beginning she's talking to Tindwyl, and Tindwyl is essentially saying that like Ellen doesn't need a lot of help anymore. Like he's getting to the point where he can only rely so much on what other people are saying, and he's getting to the point where he's stopping relying on other people's inputs for himself. So, and Vin is kind of looking at herself in the dress now, and she's kind of like, this is what I'm becoming, and I'm becoming this for him. And Tindwyl's like, no, you're not becoming this for him, you're becoming this for yourself, because this was always the path that you were on. You just got distracted a little bit. Like you were always meant to be here. So she goes downstairs to go meet with Ellen and Ham and Breeze. And Breeze is complaining about having to go, so Ellen lets him stay home instead of coming.
If you don't want to come, you don't have to. Okay.
Okay, bye. Have fun. I'm not coming. So they go to Keep Hasting, and it's Ellen. It's Ellen with his 200 soldiers inside, surrounded by Set's 500 soldiers, or is it 1,000 soldiers? 500, something like that. Soldiers in Keep Hasting, surrounded by Luthadel's 20,000 soldiers, surrounded by the like 50,000 soldiers that there are of the camped armies. So it's just kind of
It's like Russian nesting dolls of death.
I was gonna say, it's like reading with the Gats. Who begat Set's army? Who begat the Koloss? But yours is probably more accurate.
So, and on their way, Ellen and Vin are reminiscing about the balls and how Ellen never got to actually formally take Vin to a ball. Sad. And they never got to dance together. And they suggest maybe at some point hosting a ball and having all the noblemen who come donate money to feed the ska. You know, developing philanthropy, charity balls.
Trust me. My guys,
That's a dirty word.
donate to your guys. You'll never need to throw another charity.
Fundraising.
I think that line's from the
So they get to Keep Hasting, and Set chose Keep Hastings strategically because it's one of the tallest keeps in the city and one of some of the only ways to get up to the top, or the easiest ways to get up to the top, are human-powered elevators that they have. And so, as Finn makes a comment in her mind, if Set wants to, he can pull the elevators to the top, and then they won't be able to, like, no one would be able to attack them up there. They would be in a fortified position up at the top of the keep. So they go and they meet with Set, and when they get there, Set has already started eating without them, which is kind of one of his ways of doing a power play on them, essentially saying, like, you're not worth my time to wait on you. Like, you're not that important. I'm gonna wait to start eating for you to get here. So as they talk, they do mention Alrian. Because Ellen is like, is this why you wanted to meet, to talk about Alrian? And he's like, what? No, absolutely not. You can keep her. I don't care.
Stupid pink fluff ball.
Yeah.
Essentially. And they bring up Breeze, and he's like, you think that I chased Breeze out because Alrian seduced him? Like, no. And he's like, wait, what? Hold up. So, Set talks about how he had actually tried to turn Breeze to his side instead, and when Breeze didn't want to turn, that's when he chased him out of the camp.
I don't know what to believe during this whole conversation. This seems like a good time to point that out. What do we really think happened with Breeze?
I think Breeze gave. Sorry.
I definitely think that Alrian seduced Breeze 100%. That is definitely true.
100%.
Yeah, I can believe that, yeah.
Thus fulfilling the fantasies of a million men all over the universe.
So then it seems likely that Set really did catch them and really did get really mad about it, and now he's just trying to posture.
I don't think Set would posture. I think 100% Breeze gave him enough information where he think he was getting stuff out of it, while Breeze was making it seem like that was all he knew, so he could trick Set into coming. I think Breeze was in complete control.
I honestly don't think that Set cared that much that he found out that Alrian seduced Breeze, because Alrian seduces like every man that she interacts with to get him to do things for her. That's what she does. So
yeah, we saw that with Spook.
Yeah. Yep. So like that's just what she does. So he's just like, so I think Set didn't even like. He's like, oh yeah,
he's just
okay.
kind of used to that at this point.
Right.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I think this is when I really started liking Breeze. Like that little talk about how, actually, Breeze tricked you into coming here for the ATM, which was never here.
Yeah.
I think that was where I started realizing how good of a character Breeze was.
He really did just play them.
Yeah, so the conversation kind of turns, and they start talking about kingship, and Set flat out tells Ellen that if Set wins the vote, then he is gonna have Ellen assassinated, point blank. But if Ellen votes for him and then leaves the city, he'll let him live. Because he doesn't really want to kill him, maybe. But he doesn't want to kill him because he knows that Ellen is a good person. So
I don't think it's that. I think it would become too much trouble to hire assassins to chase him down.
True.
When he knows that Ellen is a man of his word, and if he says, "Okay, I'll leave," then.
And Ellen has been.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll have to let you live then.
There is that.
Yeah. Ellen doesn't back down, but he does ask Set what would happen if he does become king. And Set informs him that, like Elend was expecting, Set would dissolve the assembly, would make the ska back into the he would stop paying the ska and force them to start working again in all of the fields and the factories again without pay, like the Lord Ruler had, and essentially set up the system back to how the Lord Ruler had it. Now this, like, I can't accept that. Like, I can't. We can't. This is not gonna work. Then, so it's like, okay, well, I have food. Do you want to pay me ATM? You have ATM. Do you want to pay me ATM for the food? And Elend like, yo, you still think I have the ATM? That's funny.
I love how Ellen just developed a degree from the School of Hard Knocks.
So we find out that Breeze had been manipulating Set by trying to, like, in front of Set to downplay the rumors of the ATM while still spreading them and, like, increasing their popularity behind the scenes, which is just really interesting and I think sounds really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And Set is like, what? I thought he was just there to spy. Like, what do you mean?
Well, yes, but also no.
Yeah. What do you mean he tricked me into coming to march here for no good reason?
Perhaps you're more clever than I thought.
Meh.
Which we've known from
down,
chapter 2, but it's really satisfying to see Set be like, oh, you don't even have the ATM. So me coming here, you wanted that to happen.
Yeah.
Oh.
And also during this conversation, Min is scanning the room for potential allomancers because she still thinks that Set or his son are Mistborn. She's convinced that one of them is Mistborn. So she turns on her bronze to try to find allomancers, and she spots a couple thugs in dressed as servants, and she also spots a tin eye in the room next door, which she takes note of that Set has some allomancers on his staff. She does find it weird that the thugs are burning pewter, but they're dressed as servants without a copper cloud to conceal them.
And why might that be, I wonder?
So she's like, why go through the trouble of dressing them up like servants if you're not going to cloud them? And we end the chapter when they're talking about the ATM and how Elend has searched the entire city to try to find the ATM, and they haven't been able to find anything anywhere. Any of it anywhere in the city.
Real quick, the no copper cloud, that's just because Set wanted them to know there were allomancers there.
That's what
Potentially,
I thought.
or he just doesn't have a smoker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more of a, we can dress them up like this, but I don't know.
That's what I was thinking.
It would be really just that we don't care. Or maybe it's more so they're not dressed as servants, maybe they just are servants.
Just to mess with them.
Yeah.
Because he must know Vin is like paranoid.
He must know she's the strongest Mistborn in the world.
There's really no sense in hiding them. I mean, they don't know that, but she can pierce copper cloud.
They assume that because she did the impossible.
Yeah.
But they still think that copper clouds would hide the allomancy. There's no reason for other people to think that their copper clouds wouldn't hide their allomancy from Vin.
Yeah, that's something she keeps returning to, is that's something she's trying to hide. She has that power.
Oh, no, I was just saying that I don't believe she's the most powerful Elementor in the world. I think Zane is at this point.
Well,
We can argue that in the spoiler section.
It's probably
Well-
Spook, right?
at this
No,
point, no.
Oh, yeah, we do have to wait for the spoiler section. Damn, okay.
No, Spook is not very powerful.
For-
No, he's unless you count annoying Breeze.
Yeah.
But that's more Ham's superpower.
True.
Wasn't the wanting of Spook to be cool?
Katie, have any more
Cool
notes for
is
this
the spook.
chapter?
That's kind of it.
Let me pull up mine real quick. First, the epigraph is, "But I do so now, let it be known that I, Kawan, Worldbringer of Terrace, am a fraud." Because apparently we've gotten into the habit of reading that.
Seems
I don't
like
know
that's the
when
thing
that
we do now.
started.
Yep.
Yeah. But
I
I've
think
got
you started that, Reader.
me? No, it wasn't. I think it was 2-3 episodes ago when you guys started doing it. And I was like,
I started
okay.
doing it because I had one that was really short and very pertinent, and it just kind of kept going.
Oh.
I
So we have John to thank there.
guess. I don't know if I was the first person to do it, but that's why I started doing it.
I think you were.
Maybe.
Uh,
Possible. I'll take the blame for that one.
in the first section, I've got Tindwyl being Vin's mother is beautiful.
Yeah, she definitely is acting as Vin's mother in that first section where she's like helping Vin get dressed and like talking to her about life and where she should like how Vin's feeling about herself.
Confidence. In the next one, I've got Ham fully armed sounds awesome, and Spider Vin in a ball gown.
Spider-Man.
I just love the thought, the like picture of Vin like practicing sneaking around in the ball. Like
Mine
that's
was more
so
so, like,
funny.
Her like pushed up into a corner, like hanging on, and like in a ball gown, just like looking down on people.
And like the
They
blood
are
from the
here.
cut drips. The one scene.
And then my last section, I've got basically my comments about Vin. Not Vin, Breeze being amazing. Also, him getting seduced by Allrain, 100%.
So funny.
Anybody else got notes?
Not for this chapter.
I feel like if Set ran for president, he'd probably get elected. Sadly.
Make Luthadel great again.
Yeah.
Oof.
I don't know if that's a no
That's right, I said it.
or a joke or some kind of combination.
Too soon? Sorry.
Mm. I just don't know where our viewership is going to lie politically.
Hey, if they can't take a totally off-reference joke, then maybe they
True.
ought to grow a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Then let's move on to chapter 36 then.
Okay, that was me.
Woo.
For the epigraph, I will now read. Alendi was never the hero of ages. At best, I have amplified his virtues, creating a hero where there was none. At worst, I fear that all we believe may have been corrupted. Dun, dun, dun.
You should totally do voiceover work, dude. It's silly.
I've always kind of wanted to,
Well,
but I don't know how to get into it. So,
Talent finds a way.
the refugees are being stationed where Kelsier hid the weapons for the rebellion, and Sazed is attempting to comfort them any way he can. He's comforting this woman who has a sick child, and it's not looking good for the child, and he's finding it difficult to pick a religion to suggest to her like he always used to do. Breeze happens to be there, and he turns around and finds Tindwyl. She surprises a very worn-out Sazed by asking to see what discovery was so important he used an entire meadow mine to travel back to Luthadel. Which is a really sweet moment that I didn't quite do justice. It's like almost one of those same scenes where she's disappointed in him and they're arguing. And then at the end, she kind of flips and she's like, all right, let's see it. What was so important that you ran all the way back home to tell everybody? And he's like, wait, really? You want to check it out? Okay. And so they kind of walk off.
It's that moment of, okay, show me. What are you working on?
It's like, I don't know if you guys have seen the Shiro show, but like, there's a character who's like, you want to hear about my theories?
Oh, what was her
Nobody
name?
wants to hear about my theories.
What is her name? I've watched She-Ra. I'm trying to remember that character's name. I'm blanking. Yeah, she's funny.
I never seen it, but the way you said that, I could just totally see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like for season. So as they're walking away, I imagine the camera shifting focus over to Breeze, who it turns out the whole time was soothing both of them. And he's kind of congratulating himself. Like, yeah, might have had a hand in that. And
The job well done, I think, is the line he uses.
yeah, that's so good. So Breeze.
Very proud of himself.
But he does kind of mention how it's not like mind control. You know, he didn't make that happen. He just could see the underlying bud of this kinship, and he sprouted it with his soothing instead of fully crafting it. And there's like a really good section in here about his whole philosophy on soothing.
Yeah, he doesn't force people to do things that they wouldn't regularly do. And it's not like, and he didn't put those feelings of curiosity and interest in Tindwyl and love in Tindwyl. All he did was take away her feelings of disappointment and her feelings of duty.
He even soothed away Sazed's fatigue.
Yeah.
Which I'm guessing he actually just soothed away Sazed feeling fatigue, but the fatigue was still there. Otherwise, that power can be incredibly dangerous.
But he makes a point to use that power responsibly. And as we see in this chapter, every person he approaches differently. You know, Elend arrives in a minute and he soothes specifically things for him. And Ham, he has specific things he needs to soothe. And it's like, the dude is just always
to make
on.
him less. He makes him less argumentative.
Argumentative.
I mean, I would too.
I almost just wanted to read like that part talks about it. But
I don't think we have the time.
yeah, that's
but...
probably too much. It's like three paragraphs. This is a long chapter.
Yeah.
But Breeze comments on how Sazed and Tindwyl are an odd pair. The rest of the crew thinks they hate each other, but he says bittersweet. Or bitterness and frustration rarely comes from a place of hate, which I totally get that. Like, if you're invested in someone, that's the only way you're going to care about their opinion of you. So Ellen asks, I said Ellen and Ham show up, which I love. Breeze is like, oh, great, Ham's here. Ellen asks Ham to tell the merchants to provide the clothes for the refugees, and Breeze soos the worry away from Ham because he knows that even though he's a thug, he is a very non-confrontational person by nature. Breeze meets up with Clubs after, and it turns out they drink every night. And I like how Breeze appreciates that Clubs, being a smoker, is all natural in a sense, to where everyone else, he can't help but soothe them. He knows that Clubs, even though he's kind of rough around the edges, his reactions and opinions are genuine. And
as he goes to go meet with Clubs, every person that he sees, he soothes in some way to make their jobs easier.
It is perfectly illustrated, right? And vice versa. Clubs kind of gets similar thing from Breeze. Which I had a hard time kind of like breaking down what Clubs actually liked about spending time with Breeze. I can see Breeze in Clubs, but the Clubs, I don't know what he really gets out of it, to be honest.
I think Clubs
Well,
maybe.
go ahead.
I think Clubs might be seeing this is somebody new. Like, he even says at some point, you're not like the other soothers I've met. And they do have the whole Cosmere connection. They've both been doing this same business type for a while. But I think just the whole, this is something I've never seen, and intrigues him, and he wants to understand it. Like, even though you're the kind of person who's soothing everybody anytime you walk into a room, you come here to talk to me when you have no capability of doing it.
I can see that.
I think it's that Clubs actually likes Breeze, and part of that comes from the fact that even though he's a cantankerous old turtle, Breeze still wants to hang out with him, and he appreciates that. He appreciates the company, and he appreciates that Breeze is, like you said, he's an honest person. And it breaks the mold for what he knows about soothers.
Absolutely. So Ariane shows up. She attack hugs Breeze. And she immediately starts riding him. And we know this because Vin is like in the next booth over, spying on them essentially. And she checks Breeze, Ariane, and Clubs off of her Kandra suspect list. She suspected Ariane might be a Mistborn, though, because obviously she has the power to riot people, so there is potential for her to have other powers. But I love that she can't really believe it because she has a hard time picturing that puffball floating around in the mist.
Which I think is so funny. Also, it makes sense for all of the interactions that we've seen with Ariane. Sense now, because all of the interactions that we've seen, we've watched her pull on people's emotions and get them to do what she wants them to do.
When she first meets Ellen, she riots Breeze into getting him to introduce her. And when she goes shopping, well, she gets Spooked to do all the legwork when they go shopping. But she also takes Vin outside and helps riots the people into listening to Vin.
And I think she also riots Vin a little bit there too, to make Vin feel more comfortable and confident, like talking to the people, to like tell them exactly what's going on. Because Vin makes a comment where she's like I want to say this, but I can't, and something else comes out instead.
And we get like a
perhaps, but
we get like Breeze's perspective of being rioted, where she shows up and he immediately feels like affection blossoming.
To Kay's comment, I would agree with that if it wasn't paranoid Vin probably always burning copper. But to Swiggity, yeah, but he also immediately thinks, down. No, she is 18.
Down boy.
Oh, I'm a dirty old man.
But that's one of the things I like about it.
Made me laugh out loud.
That's one of the things I really like is like, this isn't the creepy older guy with a young girl you get a lot. This is the girl likes the old guy, and though the guy definitely seems to have attraction towards her mind, she's also messing with him.
She's messing with him just as much as he like normally pushes on other people's emotions.
Which I gotta wonder, how is he soothing her?
I imagine
He
it's
might
probably
not
just
be.
like a riot, soothe fest back and forth.
Yeah.
Hot and heavy on Cosmere
Like maybe
Connections.
he's soothing her to think of him less handsome, maybe to see that this is, in his mind, something disgusting. Or maybe he's doing the opposite, where he's making her think he is handsome. Or something.
I would doubt it. I
think
don't
he's
that
just trying to make her less horny.
Like out of everybody we've seen this chapter where he's like he sees Han, he sues Han, he sues Saza, Tindwyl, Elend. Like we get nothing on what he tries to do to Allrain,
He might not be doing anything to her.
which
in
is a
this
huge thing.
instance.
He's doing something
Yeah.
to her because he was like, I'm not going to that meeting. You can't. If you're giving me an out, I'm not going because I don't want to see Set ever again if I don't have to. So, moving on. It's time for Vin to investigate Demu, the one she really suspects. They follow him to a secret meeting in the mists with a bunch of figures. Turns out, he's preaching to the Church of the Survivor, a group of Ska who worship the memory of Kelsier and how he liberated the Ska from the final empire. Preaching hope in his final sacrifice. I didn't have that written down, that was passion. So anyways, not only does he preach hope to the Ska, but he also says that Vin will someday return the blue sky and the green plants and grass that used to populate the land before the ash started to fall. And this is all making Vin sweat and feel sick because she doesn't believe any of it. And she's also suspicious because she remembers Kelsier preaching about hope and not to fear the mist, and that he believed there was some kind of flower. There was some kind of flower-ridden Gadriel that used to exist, but never did he talk about Vin bringing that back. And so she thinks, hey, didn't OreSeur get instructions from Kelsier on what to preach? So she asks him, what did Kelsier tell you? And he basically says, yeah, he told me to preach hope, but he never mentioned anything about the plants coming back. And she confronts Demu about the same thing, and he doesn't know where this idea spawned from. But she decides that he's most likely not the Kandra, because he wasn't skulking around spying, he was skulking outside to preach to the Church of the Survivors, and he also genuinely believes what he is saying about Kelsier. Doesn't have any manipulative motivation behind his words. He genuinely wants the Ska to rise up and not be afraid, which I think is really cool. Even if there's a whole subtext to this chapter about how religion as a whole is this malleable thing that has both positive and negative influence on the mind of people, and the Kelsier religion is a very specific example because we know Kelsier personally. We know that not everything he did was all good. And yet we can see like the positive effects that it's having on the Ska. So like this whole chapter to me, I thought was super interesting, and I'm really glad it was mine. But I'm not going to go too into it because I've been talking about it for a long time. And that's pretty much the end of the chapter.
I would say I very much like seeing this Church of the Survivor grow, and how it seems to have just started with, OreSeur being sent out to go say, oh, there's still hope. The Lord, not the Lord, brother, Kelsier lives. I have come back from the dead, and people still things. And it's already evolved into, oh, now we've got Lady Air, and Vin's going to bring the world back to what it once was. He's anointed special people into positions of power, and we need to have faith in them.
Yeah, it just kind of grew into this wild thing, which I feel really bad for Vin during all this, because it's not like she has enough pressure already, right?
Yeah.
And I like looking at it because it gives us more of a glimpse into what this religion is. Like what it actually is looking like when people are going out and worshipping it. Because like we've seen religions in this, but we've only kind of heard of them from Sazed, who has all of the old religions that have very strict guidelines, and that no one is actually actively practicing. So it's interesting to see the active
Sorry.
You're good.
It's the first new religion, so it doesn't even know what its tenets are. It's literally just hope and survive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about as broad as a concept one can get.
I just love this idea that, I've heard this line that the thing about ancient history is, even if it's not true, you have to believe it, because it's all we have. And I feel like, to me, that's kind of the power of religion, is your belief in it can help shape you. And no matter what is true, because there's all these different religions, we can't say which one is the true religion. That's a cool thing that's explored in these books, is well, maybe it doesn't have to be the true one. Maybe the belief in it is what makes it true.
I do want to go back to the beginning with Breeze and Sazed. First of all, Breeze could put on a cloak or something. He does not have to sit in the middle of the room on a lounge chair in full nobleman's outfit with a book.
But he wants to, because that's what he wants to be. And he's not, and the point of it is that he's not trying to hide. He is trying to show that who was part of the survivors' crew, and who is part of Ellen's government, is there to help provide comfort and assistance, even if he's not really talking to people. He's still there, and he's still
I'm just saying, so the ordinary ska, I would be kind they don't all know about elements or soothing and writing, so I'd be kind of annoyed if I can't pick up a random thing if a random celebrity came in and just started going on her phone in the middle of the room as we're all running around trying to make dinner.
What was the meme?
It's Elon Musk on Twitter.
What was the meme? It's kids are scared because they see Chris Pratt coming towards the hospital wing, and they think it means they might have a mortal disease.
Oh no.
Kind of reminds me of that. I had one more thing to say about this chapter. When Ellen arrives, kind of like you were saying, just sticking out amongst all these refugees. He's got the sleek white suit, and it stands out against the ash. First of all, I just want to say, cinematically, that would probably be really awesome. And then also, just want to point out how nice and pristine and white it is right now.
Ooh.
That's it.
Yeah. Remember that.
Remember that. 2 chapters
it's specifically called out.
Yeah. My only other comments are about Sazed, in which we get another mind. We get a bronze mind, which is wakefulness. In which, if we go back to the Final Empire, we guess that Sazed used wakefulness to find Vin when she was fighting the Inquisitors, because when he dropped Vin off, he had to go rest for a while. This is one of those things where Brandon had an idea early, sprinkled a little bit of sin, and now we're getting confirmation. One of the reasons we really love Sanderson in the series.
Oh, the little delicious nuggets of yummy.
See, the Cosmere is a clock, and it doesn't work without all the little gears.
Some of the gears might look like they're not doing anything, but they will. And then my other comment is, I think Sazed would fit in with the Blue Lantern Corps from DC Comics.
For those of us who don't read comics, what's a Blue Lantern?
Blue Lanterns are the Hope Lanterns. They have a huge well of hope within them. And they get their ring based on if they are able to continue to hope in the worst possible places. Or it's also if they can inspire hope, which I think Sazed kind of fits in both of these aspects.
Sure, him and Kelsey are. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else for chapter 36?
I like how Breeze insults the audience when he's like, I can't understand people who spend so much time with books.
What kind of idiot would just sit around and read for hours on end?
I think
These four.
I what you were saying about Breeze before, like in the last chapter, where that was where you really started to like him as a character. I had already liked Breeze as a character, but this chapter, when he's talking to clubs, this is where that like cemented, and he became a character that I actually cared about. Like, yeah, I like him, but whatever. He's just a side note. And now it's like, man, I like this guy.
Mm-hmm. You got to give. Brandon tends to flush out characters later. He does that with his magic systems, with the world brand, and seeing Breeze's thought process, and we've been seeing it a lot in this book. Actually, it's really great.
Oh crap! I think that means it's my turn.
Yes, it is.
Okie dokie. And so I came to the focus of my argument. I apologize. Even forcing my words into steel, sitting and scratching in this frozen cave, I am prone to ramble.
I love that.
I mean,
Kawan's sitting in a cave with a chisel and hammer, and he's like, I'm gonna go on a tangent.
cuneiform side quest. Alright, so the chapter starts out with Sazed and Tindwyl having been studying all night, and finally they find a passage in a long, metal mind, from a long lost king whose name sounds an awful lot like Yanagon, that calls out the mists as being the deepness. Tindwyl's not convinced quite yet, but Sazed's like, yeah, okay, that's enough for me. I'm in. And, she kind of is like, no, there's not enough. And then he's like, yeah, maybe you're right. And then she's like, no, you never stick up for yourself. You never stick to your guns. Maybe if you'd just done that, you'd be leading the Synod instead of being an outcast. And then that's kind of where we figure out that, like, well, Sazed's got a little crush on her. Aww. And then Tindwyl's like, maybe if you just pushed a little harder, maybe you could convince me to stay, because she's like, I have to leave, and I've offered aid to this side, I have to offer the similar aid to the other sides. But maybe I don't have to go if you would just invite me to stay. And then we find out that she likes him too. Give me a reason.
Please.
And then she's like, "Aw, she likes Sazed too. That's so cute."
Yeah.
And then let's see. Tells him something dorky. Suggests she might stay if he invited her. So Sazed keeps saying stuff like, "I'm not even a man. I can't give you what you want," assuming that she wants the D, because that's not a man thing to do. And she's like, ew, no, I'm done with that. I don't need that. I just want to be with a man who actually does something worthwhile instead of figuring out how we can get away without being noticed. And he's like,
Tindwyl and Sazed are arrow ace. Confirmed.
Are what?
I don't know the
a romantic and asexual.
that one.
Oh. But they're not aromantic because they're in flirty with each other.
Yeah.
Am I getting them backwards? I don't know them perfectly.
You can be ace without being arrow. You can be asexual without being aromantic.
Okay, I meant ace then. I just meant ace. Sorry. I'm not the smartest in this regard.
You
could. Anyway.
Sorry, I meant to really just say, like, it's not a physical attraction. This is literally just, we have this common mindset.
Yeah.
Yes.
They love each other for who they is. And then Sazed says, I would very much like it if you would stay, or something to that effect. And she does. And they go back to studying some more, and everybody cheers.
Yay.
And then it switches over to Elend, who is up walking the walls, contemplating the armies and how he's going to win his re-election, special election thing. And,
That whole thing.
yeah, that whole thing.
That tiny little nugget.
And then Ham shows up, and they talk a little bit, and Ham is like, "You're starting to look like a king," and he's like, "A lot of good it does me." But Ham says something along the lines of, the men are starting to see you as a leader. You're starting to act as a leader, and he realizes that he wants to be king. And we get a little brief interlude there, just mentioning how the Koloss have joined the siege. But Ellen just can't wait to be king. Or, Ellen just wants to keep being king.
Calm down, Simba.
I just can't wait to be king.
That song was going through my mind
Again.
for this entire conversation.
Ellen to John.
But Ellen says he won't abuse a loophole just to stay in power. And so they need to think of something else. And so he starts thinking about his strengths. Like, why am I a good king? Why should I be king? And he thinks about how, his roots are in philosophy, so he'll probably be remembered as a scholar. But he was also a nobleman who loved the ska. And then he kind of decides that, he's an idealist. And then lightning strikes, and he has an idea. And off we go to the next chapter. And it's pretty much that quick.
Yeah.
Who else was
I got
idea?
very little. Bartlett. I got big Bartlett vibes from
Bartlett for America. Let Bartlett be Bartlett.
I have let Ellen be Ellen in one of my notes. But, sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No, that's okay. I love The West Wing, and I am more than happy to quote it back and forth at people all night long.
I'm still lost on
but
these
yeah,
West Wing references. Sorry.
We gotta
Oh
find
man, I will loan you my copy on DVD because otherwise, I think you need HBO Max to watch it.
Yep.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you mentioned that because that brings us to today's sponsor, NordVPN. You live in the UK, you can still watch HBO Max.
Nord, if you're listening,
Please.
That'll make sense if you stick around for the bonus section.
But in the West Wing, Bartlett is a scholar. He's a
right.
Shoot,
He
I'm
was
forgetting the
an economist.
economist, and then he basically became president because he wanted to keep the other presidential candidates straight. He wanted to make them better, in a
Right.
sense, to get the best that they could. And
got it
Ellen
to
kind of
keep the others
seems to be very much like that.
Except that he got in it because there was nobody else that would be
True.
accepted by both sides of the war.
Yeah.
Because someone has to step up.
And
do
also,
what's
he was
right.
the only nobleman left in town.
Because it is
Kind
right.
of.
Which, speaking of West Wing references, one of the things they were commenting about is a quote by Benjamin Franklin: "Is those who would give up
Yes.
essential liberty to purchase a temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety."
And that comes up in a special episode of The West Wing that was a response to 9/11, because we're old. Oh, wait, I'm the only old one here. You dang whippersnappers!
I think
Any other notes that are not West Wing themed?
no. I think Swiggity's the next oldest. How old are you, Swiggity?
27.
Yeah,
God, I've got you by a
23 as of
decade.
today.
Right. I
25.
was gonna say, where are you at, Ken?
I am the youngest one here.
Yes.
What about dragons?
Dragons? Like
We'll have to ask
30s.
him next time he's on.
I
I
think.
think he's between me and John. I'm not sure.
He might be older than John. I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, you know,
I don't remember either, but I think I'm older than him by just a smidge.
Yeah.
the older I get, and even only a couple of years, because I wasn't very long ago I read these books for the first time, the more the politics side of this, like, is hitting me more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just those last couple years we had.
It could be those last couple of years, or it could be the fact that we're growing over, and that's like something we actually pay attention to.
I think it's a little bit of
That's-
both.
Yeah.
But just the
Which is
I
weird because
remember-
this is YA.
No, but it wasn't originally marketed as YA.
Yeah, it's
This was not originally marketed as YA. It was marketed as adult.
Huh. I know
Yeah.
that in South Korea, Hunger Games was basically the YA floodgate of dystopia. So it is apparently this in South Korea was that. They got Mistborn instead of Hunger Games.
Interesting.
Hunger Games was based on Battle Royale. But I can't remember where Battle Royale came from, if that was Japanese or Korean.
Mm.
my
But
instinct.
that one was from the
is Jap-
80s.
But I don't know.
If only there was a thing that we could beseech. Oh, great oracle that is Google.
Tell us thine secrets, ChatGPT.
But specifically this idea
Apparently.
that like Ellen wants the government to be functioning and he
2000.
cares about the ska and everyone else is just like, where's that
We're gonna
ATM,
revert it.
boy? That's
Yeah.
all I care about.
John, did you
Tokyo, Japan.
Okay. Well, then anything else for 37? Okay. Chapter 38. This is really long, so I'm sorry in advance.
Yeah, but it's the first... Well, I won't steal your thunder, but this is one of the most exciting chapters we've had in a while.
True.
Mhm.
This is the problem. Though I believed in Alendi at first, I later became suspicious. It seemed that he fit the signs, true, but well, how can I explain this? Could it be that he fit them too well? It's time to vote as Ellen and Vin greet the assemblymen. Ellen says she looks beautiful and apologizes for not paying her much attention recently. Haddon comments how wrong democracy is. There can be too many surprises. Ellen says that he has one of his own and that it'll involve Vin's reputation, which she reacts coldly to. Penrod arrives and Vin steps back in a bit of a panic. She compares this to when Kelsier died, others knowing secrets and leaving her without a tether. She starts predicting votes. Ellen and Penrod will vote themselves. The merchants and Scott will vote Set. That leaves the nobles, which will be divided and let Set win with a 2/3 majority, 16 votes. The candidates are given time to speak. Set says it's pointless, and Vin realizes that Ellen is joining the Church of the Survivor. TCotS, for short. She feels anxious and sees what Zane meant as her just being a... So she notices the men moving to the edges of the room. Anything for this part?
TCotS will not be disbanded. I just love that acronym. That's great.
Or should I just keep going?
Oh, sorry. I do have one real note, and it's like Vin isn't just a little bit apprehensive about like what Ellen said. She has a full-on panic attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
Like-
much.
But we can.
She's like, I'm sorry in advance. And she's like, what?
Yeah, I didn't have anything really more
What
to
does it
say
mean,
about it,
Basil?
but- oh my god, she loses it.
It really shows how well Zane has manipulated her up until this point.
No, I wouldn't say that. I think she just really doesn't like. She hates her reputation. She does not like the Church of the Survivor because she doesn't like their worship of her because she doesn't feel like she deserves to be revered like that.
But the Vin we know would have used, like the Vin in the Final Empire would have used any advantage she had got. Here we've had Zane now saying, oh, you're just a tool. That's all he sees you as. This person who's loved you is going to just use you and he's faking it. He won't even love you by the end. And that's what really kind of gets my emotions boiling in this, is seeing
And she goes
what he has done to
through
Vin.
every scenario of just like, could it be? You know, is he doing this? Is he gonna? Yeah, she's completely lost it.
Okay, moving on. Ellen finishes his speech and glances at Vin. She stands up as a thug charges the dais, and Ellen dodges thanks to Tindwyl's training. Vin kicks the thug and puts herself in front of him as Ellen unclasps his sword. He notices 3 other groups of assassins, which they all focus on Ellen, and Vin literally growls. This next part's this next part's going to be very jumpy because I am not writing up the full battle sequence. As they attack,
that's okay.
whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The end.
They fight.
I mean, it is okay to just say they battled,
Like George
where's
Lucas.
the fun in that?
but you do need to at least enumerate the last few moves because, boy, oh boy.
Yeah. As they attack, Vin realizes she isn't able to use her daggers or coins. She pulls Ellen's sword free and throws it. It spins around the room and falls into the crowd. Vin starts taking down the assassins one by one, and she tries to save Ellen and ends up using her derailment. OreSeur helps by attacking a thug and giving Vin a new vial after she gets injured. Vin saves Ellen again, killing another thug with a knife to the chest and a finger to the eye. OreSeur's body is broken, and Ellen is fending off the coin shots. She finishes them off and is surprised, attacked by a thug who Vin took down earlier. He starts choking her, and Vin flashes back to all of her previous beatings, with Reen and Kamen and gosh knows who many others. Her pewter isn't strong enough, and Ellen's attacks do nothing. She recognizes her attacker as her vision fades, and with no other option, she uses Duralumin and pewter together. That ruins the scene. To crush the man's skull in her hands. As Vin passes out, she sees Ellen looking down in horror.
Clarification, not in her hands, with her forehead.
True.
Yeah.
You just headbutt
Still,
my
this
boyfriend
is-
so hard he burst.
This is what we were talking about with the white, right?
Yes. How it
Yes.
calls out his
Yeah.
nice pristine white, and then it
Is-
gets completely covered in brain.
Blood, red, gore. Yeah.
Head paste.
Ugh. A lot happened in this chapter.
Brings a whole new meaning to the term head cannon.
This all comes to a head because, like, there's been a lot of sections in this book talking about Vin's like, I was just put here to kill things, and also talking about how I could be Ellen's assassin, I could be his weapon, but is that how he wants to use me? Am I just that to him? You know, this tension, this finally explodes in this one moment where she's forced to be that, and it's kind of awesome because we're gonna see like how do they react, how does Ellen take this, how does she
Ham
handle it?
says.
Sorry.
I was gonna use that as a segue. Ham says Vin will live as he and Ellen sit in the empty room, in which he even comments like it was a really short amount of time. This whole entire fight, even though it was like 16 pages, it was like 6 minutes or 6 seconds or something really short. Ellen comments on the gore and tries to keep his hands from shaking. He wonders if it's better or for worse that she did it for him. Ellen asks if Straff sent them, and Ham nods. Set barely escaped alive, and half of his soldiers died. Ham comments on Vin's skill and strength just as a messenger arrives, telling them that the vote will continue at Penrod's mansion. Hammond and Ellen, that's their ship name from now on, they decide to go. In which I kind of like the little comment how Ellen was, shoot, if they had just postponed it like one day, I would still be king. The votes tally up. Penrod 15, Ellen 7, and Set 2. The merchants had strangely abandoned Set and joined Penrod. 4 of the Ska class voted for Ellen. For TCotS, Ellen wasn't going to betray that, even if he lost. Ellen was going to win via deadlock, but Habren and Hugh changed their votes from Set to Penrod. Norden, the scribe, wasn't going to say they could, but Ellen couldn't betray his morals. Placing the crown down, Ellen and Ham leave King Penrod's home without a glance. And so ends part 3.
That was a good scene. I like that he had that moment, you know. Norden wasn't going to say anything, and he could have not said anything either, but he knew in his heart of hearts that the law said they could change their votes. And he was true.
I am the law, said Neil.
Like, I could see Ellen taking off the crown and placing... He wouldn't throw it. He was not that kind of... He would place it down, and then he would just leave. No word spoken. Just gone.
And then the credits for that episode would play.
Yeah.
But then after the credit.
And then that's it for chapter 38. There was a lot in this chapter.
Oh, I'm going to cut out that part where I said after the credits, because I just remember what I was thinking of happens in 39.
You didn't actually say anything, so I don't think it's
Well, no,
trouble.
but I said I was going to cut it out, so now I have to cut out this part.
Or you could just leave it in as a blooper reel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what it's like behind the scenes. This has to be... I think John was right. Jean. Okay. Apparently
It
I
is
can't
all
speak
right.
right
You can call me Jean.
now. Jean Valjean.
I go back to my Gancier roots.
Your mother was a hamster.
I spit it.
But this is kind of where things like the action starts kicking. The story starts going into hyperdrive. Like, we've had a semi-stasis story up until now, and it's all been set up and built up, and this is kind of... The train is now leaving the station.
Yeah, the tension is finally starting to break. Things are starting to actually happen. And soon there will be chaos. I mean, colas. I mean, chaos. Yes, all of the above. Excellent. My cat is snoring and it's adorable.
I will... Any other notes for this chapter?
I always like a good fight scene.
I was surprised I got the fight scene chapter.
Yeah.
I picked my chapter completely at random, so like...
Well, in the Discord, I remember
picked
you
my
were
chapter.
like, "Oh, Swiggity, do you mind if I have this one?" And I was like, I didn't know why you meant that. And then when I read it through, I was like, "Oh, it's because there's a fight."
Oh, I picked it purely because it was an Ellen-focused chapter. Okay, I'm guessing you have notes on this chapter?
I do not have any comments on this chapter other than what, like, I just feel bad for Ellen, but he's just very honest. To a fault sometimes.
Good men don't make good politicians.
I think it's hilarious that Vin literally pokes somebody's eye out.
Yeah. Ugh.
Cool moment.
I mean, it's gross, but like...
Yeah. When
It's that thing that your mother always warned you about, and here it is.
You'll shoot your eye out.
I like the image of Vin, like, underneath this guy as he's choking, and just Ellen is trying his hardest to get this thug off.
It's like bashing him with
Like
his
beating
dueling
him.
cane.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The dueling can is like splintering against his back,
yeah.
and it's doing nothing.
There were some cool things in this fight scene. It's coming back to me now.
Mhm.
She uses Ellen's weapons. She's like pulling stuff off him to like throw at people.
Mhm.
And
She pulls his sword out of his scabbard, and then later she throws the scabbard.
yeah, which I
Yeah.
thought was awesome. And then she's about to get attacked by two guys at once, and she decides, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to flare pewter right as they hit me so that I can just weather the blow, and then they'll be perfectly open. That's like something you do in Elden Ring. You're like, I'm just going to put on the heaviest armor I have and just take this hit. Like, that's what she did.
What you gonna do now?
And she's
Anything
kinda
else?
like, fuck it. This is what we're gonna do.
Vin is hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
She is.
Anything else for this chapter, then?
I believe that is all.
what about overall thoughts on this part? It's taken us quite a few episodes. We're finally finished with King.
I could
Finally.
I could talk about these chapters for like a way longer than is necessary.
You liked them that much?
Yeah, just going back to like the political aspect of it, there's this idea of like mass psychosis of a society of people who have been periodically traumatized to the point where anything resembling order is desirable. And that is what the Ska are experiencing. And I kind of sympathize with it. In our society today, I feel like there's a lot of rampant mental health issues and there's a lot of false information being spread all around. And it's like, it doesn't matter where you fall in any spectrum, there's just vapid tensions in our society right now. And like, I just really sympathize with like, we don't have armies outside our gates, but I like feel the tension in the political climate, and like this book means so much more to me now.
Shoot, I had a comment I can't remember that you brought up that was really good. Oh, it was Vin even says in this chapter, like, democracy is kind of stupid. Like, why even do all this? And I don't remember whose the quote is from, but democracy is the worst form of governance except for all the others.
Yeah, that's a common quote, but I don't know who originally said it either.
Oh, speaking of quotes, a great quote from this one is like, a man can only stumble so long before he either falls or learns to stand up straight or get it right or something.
Mhm.
Such a cool
Understand? Yeah, a man can only stumble for so long before he either falls or stands up straight.
Great quote.
Very apt. That's this very Ellen in these chapters.
Winston Churchill said it.
I also understand why there's a lot of the criticism with this book. I understand it because it's like this book is, you feel kind of lost about like what it feels like the characters are kind of playing whack-a-mole the
There's a
entire
lot-
time, where it's like there's not really like a set like goal that they're actively trying to reach for most of this. It's mostly like something happens and the characters are like, oh my god, what do we do? And we like trying to like hit to like stop the things that are happening.
Like, the first part was about like kind of re-going over anything in the introduction of the army, and then the second part was, oh, we've got a second army and we've also got a spy. This one's purely politics, and all throughout that we've had Zane causing trouble to Vin and everything else. It's like there hasn't
Insanity.
been insanity, but there hasn't been like a straight cut villain we've had yet, and we've got Vin worrying about the deepness. We've got Sazed and Tindwyl are now searching through Kawan's notes.
I also kind of miss Kelsier being in it, not just because I love him, but like he was so self-actualized, and you always felt like, ooh, how's Kelsier gonna get out of this? What's gonna, and a lot of these characters, there's so much self-doubt and there's so much of them trying to come into their own. It's like, it's less about like, I can't wait to see what happens, and more like, God, they are really struggling here.
We really want to see them do better. We want to see Vin realize that Ellen's not going to just see her as her tool. We want to see Ellen to be king. We want to see Doxson accept that he has done some horrible things, but they were necessary things.
Yeah, I think it's
And
frustrating.
we want to see kind of like Breeze and All-Rain go to a ball together.
Dirty.
Down, boy.
That's the awkward pause of maybe spoiler section time.
That is the
Yeah, I
awkward
think it
pause
is.
of, I think we've run our course. Is
You
there
make us sound
anything
like
else?
diseases. They've run their course.
Yeah. We've gotten past all the necessary stuff. Now we do the fun stuff.
Welcome to Random Hour.
Anything else for part 3? No? Okay. Before I move into my whole spiel, I do want to say next episode we'll be covering the first half of Mistborn, the Well of Ascension, Part 4, Knives. We're going to be covering chapters 39 to 43. We have, for the next couple parts, we're going to be able to do them in 2 parts or less. That'll probably make the rest of this book go by fairly quicker.
You can never have too many knives.
True. So
What
thank you
is that?
so much. Sorry.
What is that from?
The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie.
Nice.
You can never have too many knives, as Logan's father would have said.
That's not a knife. This is
This
a
is a
knife.
knife.
That's the crocodile hunter. No,
Yeah.
wait. Crocodile Dundee. That's it. Not the hunter.
Crockett.
Well, thank you so much for sticking around so far into this episode. We're going to go on into the spoiler section next. We highly recommend that if you have not read this book, the entire series, or potentially the entire Cosmere, you stop here because it's likely we'll talk about everything and anything. However, if you are up to date on the story, feel free to stick around. It's likely we'll bring up details you may have forgotten or plot threads that are still yet to come. Please be sure to subscribe, leave a like, star, heart, or whatever it is on this video or audio, and don't be afraid to comment your own thoughts and predictions. We would love to hear from you. But if this is where we leave you, then my name is Reader. I have been joined by Swiggity Swoo.
That's not a knife.
John.
I didn't think about an exit quote.
And last but not least, Kay.
You know, have a good night.
And this has been Cosmere Connections. And we're back!
Woo!
Let's just get right back to it, shall we?
Do we want to start with things from
Yes,
last
Kay's
episode?
reviews. So we've got chapters 35, 34, and that doesn't seem right.
34, 33, and 32.
Oh yeah, there it is. Sorry. What's going on? I don't think I had any real long-term notes in mind. In chapter 33, we wanted to know how does the Kandra religion compare to the Terrace philosophies?
It is the same.
It's the same?
It's the
Yeah, I
same.
doubt there was anything in the Terrace philosophies about having humanity destroy themselves so that
But
at the hands of the
it's not that humanity destroys themselves necessarily. It's that the world gets destroyed by ruin. That's what it is. But the Kandra have kind of
warped it over the 1,000 years.
a little bit over the 1,000 years.
which would make them not the same anymore.
But it's basically
They share roots.
It's basically the same though, because the Kandra religion is the Terrace religion after 1,000 years of Kandra worship.
Gotcha.
Like,
So that's
but
why
it's still the same religion.
so critical that they keep talking about how I keep saying they, but I mean Brandon Sanders keeps talking about like Daisy trying to get details of the Terrace religion. because
Mhm.
it's essentially the same thing as the Kandra religion, which is like the original prophecy.
Mhm.
Whoa.
Mm.
Or as close as we can get.
Mm.
Yeah.
We were wondering if later down the line was there any reference on who poisoned the well? Oh, special guest star Dragon Kieran is now joining us.
The person who poisoned the well was Zane.
Okay, we do have that.
That's I don't know if it was confirmed necessarily or not, but I do remember I think Straff has told Zane to like cause chaos in the city, to like do things to like sabotage their food supplies and stuff, I think.
That makes sense. I think we all did a little vote. And we all agreed that it was most likely Straff and not Set.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Zane and his tendencies towards poisoning.
Well, so it's easier. It would be easiest for Zane to poison the well, and disrupt the food stores, because he can just jump around the city being Mistborn. And as we know, Set doesn't have any Alabancers other than Alran. So it would be much more difficult for him to have someone sneak to the
He
to the
does, though.
well. No, he doesn't.
We see him have thugs and a tin eye.
Those are not his Alamancers.
They aren't?
Those are Zane's Alamancers that he has planted in Set's
Assuming we're in
home.
spoiler section because we're
Yes.
talking about
Yes, we
that.
are.
Yeah,
Shoot.
Yeah,
I
those
didn't
Yeah,
remember
those
that
are
at all.
those are that.
yeah,
those
that's
are,
actually Straff's kids.
Yeah,
That's-
those are Straff's
That's
kids
Straff's children.
that Zane planted in there.
Where
That
was
he
that
then
revealed to us?
that it's
Later,
because
at the end of the book.
Oh,
later.
that would be why I don't
So-
remember it. Okay.
It's what Zane uses to get Vin to attack Set.
Is that why Vin
Because-
recognizes the one thug then?
Yes,
Ah.
because she saw him in Set's household when they were having dinner. So she thinks that thug was in the employ of Set.
See, and I was just thinking this whole time because basically every time I read the book, it's like reading it for the first time. But I was thinking that she recognized him or thought she recognized him because he physically looks like Ellen and Zane being.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
No, it's because she's like, oh, I recognize him, and then that's when he comes to her in the night. He's like, don't you realize, those weren't
Yeah.
my guys, and then it says like,
And she
oh,
realizes
she remembers that he was the guy
in-
serving food
Right.
inside of Set's castle, and it's
Mm.
like that's when she's just like, aren't you just mad? And she's like, yeah, I'm pissed off. Let's go kill some peeps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
And then
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize that. I didn't remember that.
Makes so
the
much
only
more
other
sense, though.
it does.
Way to go, Kay.
Brandon.
Keep him on track.
Listen, apparently I wasn't here last week, and apparently they were struggling without me.
Yeah, I was going to say,
We
apparently
were-
Dragon watched last week's episode because he wasn't here either, and yet he knows. He knows we were having a hard time.
Our only other real note question we have is, at some point, Ruin comments how Vin should leave, and he whispers in her ear about anybody can betray you, you should leave before they hurt you. We were wondering, is Ruin trying to get Vin to leave early, just so she can run off to the well and do that earlier?
I think he's trying to sow seeds of doubt in her and to get her to trust Zane, because Zane is one of the people that he is employing, that
Yeah,
he's not
one of
employing
his
but
more
controlling.
easily influenced person.
Yeah. So he wants her to leave with him, and so she's sowing that thought of like, oh, you shouldn't be trusting Ellen, you shouldn't be, like, you need to leave before he hurts you.
So simply just to play devil's advocate a little bit. Ruin's advocate, right?
This is just my thought as well. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and
That makes a lot of sense.
I think it sounds like a great thought. But again, a little bit of Ruin's advocate. Ruin thinks every single human being is his pawn. He specifically
True.
says that in Hero of
But-
Ages, right?
But
He's like,
Zane
it
is a
doesn't
more
matter.
easily influenced pawn.
Right, of course. And he understands that. But at the same time, like, he's very much just like, I don't care. Like, Ellen, what's his bucket? The, dude with
Set?
medium aid on his ATM bead on his forehead.
Oh.
Like,
Yeoman.
he's like, yeah, Yeoman. He's like,
How do you
I
remember
don't
that?
care. I don't care. It's like you, it's Ellen, it's that dude, it's random people just like killing people. He's like, I don't care. Like y'all work for me. So it's like,
3-person chess and one team doesn't even know that they're playing.
right. But
Mhm.
I do kind of agree that it's like at the same time he recognizes that he has a greater control over the like the Inquisitors because they're spiked, and so and the Koloss, and so he uses them like to prompt his other pawns, right? He thinks everyone's on his side, and everyone's his pawns. But I guess it's just like some are more easily controlled. So I guess I could still then go back to like, hey, Zane has a spike in his heart.
Literally.
He just, he listens to me because I'm God. But at the same time, like, I wonder if it's just kind of like for Vin. Sometimes he
Mhm.
doesn't have the power to like get as specific with her, and sometimes, or like later, he just like anytime someone walks past, it's just kill them, kill them, kill them.
Mhm.
Even that happens to Vin, right? And it's just kind of like always his kind of broadcast to her, and she's just learned to ignore it. But if it's like the always broadcast on is just distrust, 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 distrust.
Mhm.
I don't know. Just some other potential.
So, hot take,
That makes
Dragon.
sense.
What? Who is currently the most powerful Allomancer in the world?
Ah, yes.
We were talking about this earlier, and I would like your opinion on the matter.
In which moment? In the moment of where we're reading,
Where
right
we
in
are
Well of
currently
Ascension.
at, yes.
As of chapter 38.
What do you define as power? Ability to control and finesse, or the ability to, or just raw sheer investor output?
If you were to
Both.
pit these people in a death battle.
Well, we know that Vin would win.
Exactly.
Do we?
Yeah, we do, because she wins later on in
yeah.
the book.
That's later.
Yeah, but she beats Zane even though Zane is burning ATM.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not like Allomancy that does that though.
But that's why I'm asking. Are you talking allomantic power? Are you talking finesse, which comes with all the amount of using your brain and powers and knowing how to flip and switch and stuff? Because Zane proves that he has, right, his spike is steel.
Mhm.
Right.
He proves that he has stronger pushes and more finessed pushes. He can hover, he can hold, he can stand upside down at like a 37.9 degree angle from the window.
Hello there.
He brags with his powers.
Right.
So if you're talking raw power, steel, Zane wins.
But
Right.
Vin
And that
also
was
has
my point.
Duralumin. But Vin has
But if-
Duralumin.
Oh, so does Zane.
Zane has Duralumin?
Yes,
He
at
has
this
the
point.
ability to use it. He just doesn't have any.
Yeah,
Well,
but
No,
okay.
he does.
I think
He does. By
at
the
this-
end, he
yeah.
does, and we don't know at what point that Tensoon steals the Duralumin and the compound for him. Remember, he's like, "You guys, I noticed, right? Conversation when they're right when they're fighting. I noticed that you had a weird ability to sense me, so I had Tensoon snoop around, and he found your bag and he brought it to me. So in the fight, so we don't know at what point he gets that. So yeah, he also has Duralumin. The point is,
Okay.
in finesse and ability to use and be cunning, Vin wins out because Zane just relies on ATM and power.
Can I ask?
Right. So again, he wins outright power. She wins finesse. Excuse me.
Vin's ability.
Go ahead, Batman.
Vin's ability to draw upon the. Does that factor into this in any way?
Sorry,
I feel like it should.
You are like super quiet on my audio for some reason, Swiggity.
I always
you're
have to
so-
turn up.
Oh,
I
sorry.
always have to turn up Swiggity's audio.
Sorry about that.
Swiggity's audio is all the way up for me.
Good to know. I'll remember that.
I would say that it counts only if she's not wearing her earring, because she can't do it while she's being touched by Ruin. And
Oh, you mean
it's
talking about
not so much
pulling the mist?
Access the mist.
Yeah.
and it's not so much her pulling on the mist as the mist sort of giving themselves to her. Because, like, she doesn't, it's not like she breathes it in like Stormlight. It's kind of like when it happens, the mists rush into her. They are actively forcing their way in and investing her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not really her doing it.
But Zane can't.
Should
do
we
that,
move
right?
on? Sorry. Zane cannot.
No, Zane cannot, because if he removes his spike, he goes, eh.
Also, the mists are completely tied to Vin. Preservation keyed them to her. Let's move on to the actual chapters, though.
Hey, anything and everything goes in the spoiler section, buddy.
This is true. We do have the tendency to ramble.
We wild the night.
Even when pounding our words into steel.
My only comment for 35 is set at 1 point comments. Did you check the statues? Make sure that there wasn't any metal hidden inside. And I wrote statues with secret investiture hidden inside. What kind of idiot would come up with that idea?
Nice.
Technically, it wasn't hidden inside the statue.
Well, they were hidden inside the thing that was hidden inside the statue.
Not inside the statue, Wax.
They weren't inside. It wasn't inside
It
the
was
statue.
the tip of the statue.
Yeah, it was on the tip of the spear.
We're talking about the
we were talking about
We're talking
Warbreaker.
Warbreaker,
Oh.
yeah. What's his name's gift?
Oh, yeah. I was totally thinking about
I was thinking of bands.
Sorry.
Bands in
the
morning.
spear as well.
Yeah, we the three of us were thinking bands of morning.
Well, the three of you are wrong.
Also, that also
High five
wasn't.
for being awesome.
Yeah.
Also, with Warbreaker, that wasn't hidden inside the statues necessarily. It was the statue.
Oh, shush. The investiture,
No,
the thing
they
that
were
I was
bones
actually
that were
best.
encased in stone, so
Yeah.
it was inside the statue.
It was inside the statue.
It's like saying, no, I don't like you. It's like saying, like, I don't like you. I like you, but we're not going to count, the fact that someone's dressed up, like, when we like their presentation. No, that doesn't matter.
It's not the clothes making you look good, it's you making the clothes look good.
Exactly.
Of course.
Does the
Pro tip
conjure
for
wear
all
the
you who have
bones, or does
spouses
the bones wear the
Or
conjure?
significant others.
Are there any other spoiler notes for 35?
I don't think so. 35 and 30, whatever I did, were pretty...
35 was Vin and Ellen meeting with Set.
Yeah, that was all I had to say.
Okay, then for 36, I've got, in the epigraph, we've got a comment how, the prophecy is being corrupted. No, it's not. It's being ruined. Later, at 1.1, Breeze is commenting about how what he does, soothing, is just influencing, tipping, and he says nudging, and it's got capital N. And I'm wondering, is that a typo, or is that something Brandon was going to do at some point else?
Like a steel push, capital P, a nudge.
Capital N nudge for, like, an allomantic thing.
And he
I would think so, except capital S soothe is kind of the big word.
Yeah, but they talk about... There have been a few instances of nudging people's emotions.
Okay, I just haven't noticed it.
Where is it that he says that? Sorry.
Breeze is saying it when he's listing... let me check my copy.
It might also be something that Breeze does internally. He calls it nudging, kind of like Vin called it her luck.
True. Shit.
We'll cut this section out.
No.
You got that, Swiggity?
Leaving it dead
Where-
air.
Because where I see, where I found it where it mentions nudging, it's not capitalized, so that's why it was just.
Tweaking, nudging, and soothing. It's when he's talking with Clubs, and he says, "Do you know what it's like, Clubs?" Breeze asks, "Being a soother?" "No. It gives you remarkable control. It's a wonderful feeling being able to influence those around you, always feeling like you have to handle how people will react." "Sounds delightful," Club said fatly.
Yeah.
And yet it does
Tweaking,
things to you.
comma, nudging.
And soothing. Is that a capital N for you?
Capital
It is
N,
not
yeah.
It is a capital
capitalized
N.
for me.
Ooh.
Soothing is capitalized, but not tweaking or nudging.
What version do you have?
I have a pretty
think-
recent one.
Yeah, he and I think, have the most recent release from the box set.
From the trilogy, right?
So,
Yeah.
Oh, did
yeah,
you
that's
get like the most recent? Okay, interesting. Probably just a little correction that they then did.
Little
I
type.
just
Yeah.
got whatever was the
so what's
Kindle
it
version.
called?
So it's
You got the
Yeah.
Kindle like triple combo.
So I got the
Yay!
old version.
Yeah,
The
you two
OG.
have the original like cover art, whereas Swiggity and I have the current, like the most recent box set, which mine's in the other
In the-
room. Hold it up.
In the art
Yeah.
style that I really don't like in fantasy books.
Some of the
That's fine.
European covers, I mean, just as an aside, some of the European covers have been just absolutely freaking amazing. I love the Polish Stormlight covers. Oh my god, they're
that's
awesome.
cool.
But anyway, sorry, I just my 2 bits on like the cover art. Not that there's anything wrong with the American ones. I mean, I've had them as my computer background for God knows how long. But those Polish ones are freaking sweet.
I was just gonna say,
Um,
yeah, I think that the end there, that's just a typo. I think that's just a typo.
Okay. It was just something that caught me eye and I just wanted to comment on it. Vin
You
doesn't
never
tell
know with
Tense.
Brandon.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because there's
Uh,
another point where because he used to have clubs as the seeker, not as the smoker, and there's actually an instance where in the
In this
audiobook and in the
Yeah.
original there he didn't have that changed, and so she's like, "Oh yeah," and I asked Clubs if he heard the thumping too, and he said he couldn't hear anything because he's also a seeker, and and every time I hear it, I'm like,
No, he's not.
That'd be aggravating.
Yeah, it is.
When Vin uses her spike earring to pierce copper clouds, we've got Vin doesn't tell Tensoon about her abilities.
mm-hmm.
We got
Yes.
another instance of that. And
I
when
think
we've
it's
got
interesting because it's like she doesn't think she has to keep secrets from him, but it's like such a guarded secret in her head that she does. But even though at the same time she's like opening up and like telling him all these like vulnerable things about like her past and all this stuff, but it's still like in her nature to be secretive, and so she just naturally doesn't tell him.
I
Like-
gotta wonder if it's more than that. I think Ruin is making it so she shouldn't tell him, especially a Kandra, who are creatures that are literally made to stop hemalurgic creatures, in a sense. Like they know
They're-
hemalurgy, they know about Ruin.
Creatures themselves. So
Exactly,
Yeah.
but they
They're-
see themselves as of preservation. We are the spies of
But-
Ruin.
But I don't think Ruin would know that necessarily.
Ruin thinks of them as just like Kolos, and see that's what I've always
Yeah.
found interesting because like Ruin's like, yeah, you're just like me, and they're like, no, we're of preservation. I'm like, no, dude, you're of Ruin. You got spiked 2 dead peoples in your shoulder.
Mhm.
Like, but they're like, no.
But I kind of
we lied to
headcanon.
ourselves.
I kind of headcanon think Ruin's maybe a bit protective. Like, you don't want to tell him this because maybe Tensoon would recognize, oh, I wear this earring and I can pierce copper clouds.
I don't think so. I don't think he would know anything about it. I think that it's just that like with the earring, like she's very much Ruin has influenced her a lot to get her to not think anything about the earring.
True.
So, like, and with her piercing copper clouds, like, she really doesn't want anyone to know about that ability. So she is very, very guarded about it.
It also leads to them guessing that she's using Duralumina to do it.
Right. Which also is another question. Who has she even told about? She
Nobody.
tells Kelsier, but
Yeah.
Kelsier
That's
dies.
true.
Kelsey's the only one.
Does she ever tell Stazit? I don't think she does on book.
Did
She
ever
talks
tell,
about the pulsing, but I don't think she's ever talked about piercing copper clouds.
does Ellen know that she can pierce copper clouds?
What about Marsh?
I don't believe so.
Probably not. She doesn't talk about the specifics of her allomancy with Ellen much.
Yeah.
Like and in fact, she actively tries to protect him from her allomantic ability.
And like even she doesn't even tell him about when she sees preservation, the mist spirit.
Yeah, not for a long time.
So I think the only people who know about it are currently trapped in a well.
No, Ellen, she tells Ellen that she sees the mist spirit, but Ellen doesn't believe her.
But we're mainly kind of
Sorry.
focused around the
Yeah.
I think you're
she
right,
does
but,
eventually
like-
she does tell him about the spirit, but
Yeah.
piercing copper clouds thing, you're right. I think it's just Kelsier.
Hmm.
So
And then later we've got when Vin asks OreSeur what was he told by Kelsier to preach about, and we see him just blatantly lie
he's
like
Yeah.
Stuff and hope.
Oh, it's pretty
and,
vague, actually.
surviving.
well,
Yeah.
first he's like, what? And then she's like, yeah, when he's like told you to take his body and go preach to all the people, he's like, oh yeah, I
did
was
that.
the Kandra that did that. It's like
I was
those
told
those
to.
movies when people are like, I am human, says the robot. Definitely, it's like I was the Kandra who said that.
I am
yes.
human, says the Colossus.
Anything else for this chapter?
I just think it's funny how Vin thinks everyone is a Mistborn.
Yeah.
True.
I remember thinking that too.
And then it's like when you know
Constantly.
that they're not, it's like, oh my god.
Alright.
Yeah, she's very much like, she doesn't have a concept of how, like, she doesn't understand how rare Mistborn actually are.
Mhm. But granted, she's
To
known
be fair,
Kelsier,
she's a
Zane.
Mistborn, Kelsier's a Mistborn, and she fought two random Mistborn in the middle of the night with Ellen.
But then,
Like,
Plus
to
then there's
protect
Zane.
Ellen.
like, it's
And then there's Zane. So she's run into and knows 5 Mistborn, including herself, and that's more than, like, anyone has ever done. So to her, it's like,
Are you
assume everyone's a
counting?
Mistborn, and if they don't spring up and shoot coins at you, then they'll die that much easier when you shoot coins at them. But
But there's something like
Yeah.
really
You're even-
ironic about how like there's two things in this book. She's like, one, she's paranoid. Who is this Contra spy? And two, who is the next Mistborn I'm gonna have to fight? And like,
Yeah.
she and like she doesn't want to suspect Ellen is the Kandra, and then Ellen ends up being Mistborn. And I just find that to be like really ironic. Like,
So
True.
when Zane dies, does she commit the final act of genocide?
Yes.
Nice. At least until Ellen gets the nugget, but whatever.
wait, what do you mean by the act of genocide?
He's the last Mistborn we ever see.
until
Whoa.
Oh.
Spook,
They're
right?
saying Mistborn
yeah.
genocide. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, wiping out an entire people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Zane-
technically, she is so genocide, sort of.
Yeah, sort of.
I imagine
Zane
Gemmel's
is
still
the
kicking
last.
around.
But he's crazy.
He's just old, cranky, and pierced by whatever.
Yeah.
So I had
I'm gonna
a
go
thing.
look up
I've been
Gemmel.
thinking about this.
Gemmel
I know-
is Kelsier's
Train.
master
Teacher.
trainer. Who
Yeah,
taught
I
him.
just want to see if anything on Coppermine has like, does he like live? Does he start like world
Is there a
hopping?
confirmation of him being dead? Because even at times, that's not useful.
You never know.
Yeah, right. That's true. Turns out he was a cognitive shadow the whole time.
Gemmel was actually Whimsy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. I'm gonna
No,
enjoy
it
thinking
was-
about that for a while.
It was one of Ambition's people. It's one of her avatars.
So hemalurgy works by piercing a bind point with a hemalurgically charged spike.
Mhm.
Does that mean that Kandra are just one big amorphous bind point?
Yes.
Weird.
But they
Because you can
but
just
they
shove a
have to have
spike
they have to have the
into.
spikes. No, they have to have the spikes somewhere specific. Remember, he has to go place them. He dissolves specific organs, puts the spikes specifically in his shoulders, moves organs and muscles back in, and then he gets the power.
Yeah, but in Era 2, we see Bleeder literally spit one out and then fall on a new one.
And
then
we
all of a
also
sudden she's
see
fine.
just wax. We also see Wayne just like throwing one into Milan.
So like when they take it, but it says with Milan, she's like, I'm pretty sure it says like she knows what to do with this. Like her body
True.
knows what to do with it. So I think there's an aspect of there's like they feel and they have the sense of power when it's just like touching their body, but to get like the way like the
They move it
like,
to where it needs to be.
they move it to where it needs to be to like get that extra power or the heightening of the senses or the whatever. Like they can just like fall on the spike, but their body will either automatically move it because it just knows it, or it gives them enough awareness falling on it, having it in their area. But so it's like partially effective, and then it becomes fully effective when it's properly placed. It's either one of two things, or
That's cool.
one I haven't thought of. But.
I don't know if I like that.
Well, it just can't be anywhere because it very specifically says that Tensoon places them in very specific spots before he gets his power back when he goes and gets the extra spikes that he buried in the ground.
Yeah, and I remember I remember that passage you were talking about with Milan knowing where to put it.
Right.
But that's strange because they don't
ask Brandon in November.
I guess.
That does seem like a brand. I don't think that's ever been asked. That's a good question. Let's move on to chapter 37, though.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, before we do that, in 36, when we've got the whole concept of where does hope come from, do we think that ruin was already affecting the Church of the Survivor? Or is this just an actual evolution of the religion?
About what do you mean about
Like Vin and also just
like where
general
did all
hope.
like the talk about like hope and sun and green grass and stuff? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Came from Marsh.
There's some things on Gemmel. I've been looking into it.
Now I'm scared.
And they're saying on the Coppermine that there's a good chance he was hemologically spiked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
He kind of sets the whole series off because he trains Kelsier and then he gives him the 11th medal, or at least where to find it.
Well,
that's
the reason. That's like the whole like little mini pre-series thing that was written was Gemmel was spiked and he led him to where the 11th medal was. Like that was like the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
I never
part of that story was in
quite got that big reveal. That's crazy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I like glanced through it and I was like, oh, nothing interesting besides that he met Zane apparently.
Yeah.
Gemmel met Zane once, but that meeting wasn't necessarily relevant. And fighting Kelsier to the death as a final piece of training seems to be like something Gemmel would do, but it's not what it does not say.
100% guaranteed, but it's just that sounds like it.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else for this chapter? No. Okay. Chapter 37. No spoilers really for this one. This one is the one where Sazed and Tindwyl kind of reach a consensus, and Ellen has his idea of joining the Cult of the Survivor. I mean, church.
I guess, part of like spoiler section, a lot of time we try to highlight Cosmere Connections, but also part of it is we try to just say stuff we couldn't say before, and it's like a really bittersweet them falling in love when you know what's coming.
Well, yeah.
Sad.
Yeah. But also, like, I should have seen the signs so much earlier the first time reading this.
Yeah, it's a shame. I really never saw her being Finn's mother or even Ellen's mother in a lot of these cases until this reread. And even that is like Tindwyl was able to grow so much in the short amount of time we had her.
Yeah. And she is very much a mother character. She's been a mother character though at the beginning. I don't know if she's necessarily grown a lot. I think we've just seen more sides of her character, of who she was at the beginning. Because at the beginning, all we see is this very harsh person. But then when she goes out shopping with Vin at the beginning, we see that she's not that harsh. Like she's harsh on Ellen, but like she's actually very caring with Vin.
True, but sorry.
No. I was gonna bring up something that's probably, I'm assuming, what you're. Maybe what
I
you
was
are, but
gonna
it's
say, I would agree with that. True, but we also do see her change a bit. Even in this one, she starts actually saying kind of she wants Sazed to ask her to stay, and we do have at the end her abandoning her non-combative orders and helping with the Luthadel attack.
it's love.
It's love. It's the love of Sazed.
He was placed in this book to die.
She really was.
And she had to be at least a little bit likable, which means that somebody we already like has to like her.
It's
Which just,
true.
you know.
I just really love how throughout the most of the thing we talk about is how funny and how amazing Ulriane is, while Tindwyl just slips under the radar.
Yeah,
Listen,
that's because she's not all that likable.
yeah. Also,
True.
Ulriane is hilarious.
Yeah.
That's true. Anything else for 37? Okay. 38. This is the big one. The entire voting section. We've got Tensoon / OreSeur abandoning the contract and attacking somebody.
That's pretty good. That's pretty big, huh?
Yeah.
Which,
This is the first time
I
that
mean, but as he argues, he didn't kill somebody.
Right. And the odds of him breaching his contract with that action were very minimal.
But he still...
But he enters a gray zone that he has never entered before.
Mhm.
True.
Where he does something that has the chance of breaking his contract.
And it's something that OreSeur would never have done.
Absolutely not.
OreSeur was still the dog, he'd just be like, wow, y'all are dying.
He's just sitting there on his little haunches.
just a dog just like watching like Vin just like fly back and forth across the stage. He's just like,
a thug is tossed
Like
over
a
his
cat
head.
watching a laser pointer.
You probably just stand there and bark. That's what a dog would do.
Lays down, sets his head to the side.
You know that thing that dogs like cover their face? It's like every time Vin gets hit, he's just like, ooh, yo, man.
That looked like it hurt.
I would go as far to say that Tensoon, when he first, even in like the first couple parts, would not have done this. I think
True,
it's only
yes.
the fact that Vin has brought him out of his shell. Does he
For
do
sure,
it.
but even immediately, pretty quickly, I like going a reread and like seeing the diff change between OreSeur to Tensoon, like just his little like the way he's like, oh, that's just part of the contract. How he views the contract, and just like will bark for Vin even before she even like does anything as like a warning. That's like the first thing that he does is like, hey, let me go out for strides, and she has like a spar with Zane, and then he does a little warning bark. She doesn't actually even comment on that piece because she hasn't done any building with him, so she doesn't even realize that it's different. Because OreSeur wouldn't have even given the warning bark. He's like, well, you didn't tell me to warn you when a Mistborn's about to stab you in the back.
Uh-huh.
Right. Although I think it would be hilarious instead of actually barking, he just yelled "bark" really loud.
Bark, bark. I mean, I'm a dog. Woof.
Bow wow.
But
Where's the Bow Wow
so like,
concept?
and that's kind of one of the things that I like when, like, in the reread, watching, going from OreSeur and then seeing like the first bits of Tindwyl before, while he still hates humans. You know, to only hates all humans but Vin. You know, but like he has like, but just like that aspect of like, it's just how does a Kandra like interpret their contract? Even two Kandra of the same generation interpret the same thing slightly differently. Because to him, it's just serving the contract is helping them, whereas OreSeur is serving the contract is doing everything I am told to the letter, and if anything falls outside of that, I won't do it. So
my only other comment is, we're gonna have to see Vin get panicky about Ellen's reaction to all the gore and the blood, but I suppose we can save that for when we actually see that.
Yeah.
And was it clear that those were Straff's weird allomantic babies, or is that something that's revealed in the next chapter? I can't remember.
Raffo.
They definitely say it in the next chapter, but it's pretty much. We've got Ellen asking Ham, were these Straffs? And Ham's like, I don't know who else they would be. Set barely escaped with his life. They were targeting you as well. It seems to be you guys were the only ones. Anything else for this section of chapters or this part as a whole? Nothing from nobody? Dragon, you haven't been here in a while. You're free to make a comment.
I mean, that's what I thought I was doing, but
Yeah.
Is Hoyt in these books?
But we've had
Susu and OreSeur the dog watching fights, you know.
We've had 3 episodes to talk about how many chapters. You popped on just this once.
No, it's totally fine, and that's kind of why I just like I've generally felt okay, kind of like casting back to different aspects of like Tindwyl and OreSeur, and I don't know. It's always like an interesting just like listening and watching to all of these, listening and rereading these episodes, like this book again for my 12th or 15th time, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever the number is. I read it twice on paper, and then I've just listened to it on repeat. It's not like I don't feel like I'm ever like particularly surprised by anything anymore that people do, but it's just always like interesting as to like I feel like the perspective you guys bring on this, and so I hope that other people still get some benefit out of listening to this that have read the Cosmere as many times as I have. Like I can say every single Cosmere book that's out there I have read at least twice, mostly just because I'm limited by White Sand. I've only listened to Dramatized twice. You know, but other than that, like, you know, the main Mistborn series is like a dozen plus times. But it's just like it's interesting to hear you guys' take on certain things, that because it's just like I formulate an answer to like the well question. I just kind of like it was, here's my answer, and I just go with that because just in my head it makes logical sense, and then everyone's like, wait a second, could it have actually been set, or
do we
was it
know that
actually
Gemmel
dead?
is dead?
Do we actually know that Gemmel, you know, is dead for sure? You know, it's like things that it's like I just kind of like write my own little bit of a headcanon for, I think, and then some of that's getting challenged. So
We've decided that the move that Vin uses to end the fight in the assembly thing is called the headcanon.
Oh, nice. There you go. So, yeah, I got a little bit of a headcanon for headcanon. You know?
Yes, exactly. I forgot that was before we started recording when we were sitting around talking about it.
Yes.
Nice. But I don't know, just kind of some of my general thoughts. Otherwise, I just obnoxiously blurt stuff out as they come to my brain.
No worries.
That's kind of how we all do it, so.
Pop it. Yeah. Like I was saying before, we're going to cover the next 10 chapters in the next part, we're going to split them into 5 and 5 because there's a pretty good cliffhanger at the end of the 5th one on the first half. But I suppose that's going to be it for our show tonight. Thank you so much for joining us on our ramblings and predictions. Please be sure to remember that there's always another connection. Have a nice night.
Take it easy.
Good night.
See you eventually.
Elseer was a Jedi because when he was struck down, he became more powerful than the Lord Ruler could possibly imagine.
We're halfway. See?
It's okay. Journey before destination.
God, this book is eternal.
Kay and I were talking about this before you guys showed up, but in the Well of Ascension specific books task, I've got 2 options for what we want to do for the next part, in which we can either do it in 4, 3, and 3, order can change, or we can do 5 and 5. Kay and I like the 5 and the 5 because of what Kay found. I'll let her say what she thinks because I'm not going to tell people what
I don't care. Let's do it 5 and 5.
Yeah, I was saying 5 and 5 because
I'm already halfway through the next section anyway because I kind of forgot to stop the audiobook from playing.
So I did the same thing. I read a couple chapters extra.
I was going to bring it up when we got to the end of the part, but this was like one of the few times I was like, I don't want to stop here.
Yeah.
I want to keep going.
It was such a cliffhanger.
Yo, that's because something finally happened.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, little things have been happening. Oh my god, not again.
Well, let's say. I mean,
Sorry, I got a
let's say
chunk
that.
of ceiling tile in my eye today, and it was there for like 3 hours until I could get to a Walgreens.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I was worried that it was happening again, but no, it was just an eyelash, so we're okay.
Don't they have the water sprayers that they usually have in like science class? Or at least a water bottle?
I rinsed my eye out in a sink, which I don't think you're actually supposed to do, but it was the only thing that was like nearby. So
Nice.
Side note, but Reader, are those Scooby snacks that you have?
Yes, they are. It is my birthday, so I got Scooby snacks.
Oh, happy birthday!
Oh, it's your birthday.
I
Happy
love me my
birthday.
Scooby snacks. Thank you very much.
23.
happy birthday!
This is your golden
It's
birthday.
not Christmas yet.
Wait, no, it's not.
I lost my health care. Military benefits run out at 23.
Wait, yeah, it is.
Unless you want to pay $570 a month.
It's a lot.
Uh-huh. But I did get this cool Edge Dancer wax
Ooh,
That's
seal.
cool.
Yeah.
fancy.
Did you
Calling
take
that
the
Edge Dancer.
test? Is that which order you belong to?
Yep, I am an else color.
These words are.
You just said Edge Dancer earlier.
I meant else color. Else color, sorry. I wanted to be an Edge Dancer, but I turned out to be an else color.
I'm supposed to be a truth seer, which is the most boring of them all.
I actually got Edge Dancer.
So Windrunner and Edge Dancer were like tied for me.
Give me a
But
second.
I like, hey, nice,
Yeah.
let's go, Swiggity. But I like
We're just
Edge Dancer more, so.
Yeah, but we're gonna give you a Windrunner because it's got to be different.
I think
Yeah.
I think my next closest was Windrunner, but I didn't want Windrunner because everybody wants Windrunner, and I wanted to be something else. I was actually hoping for like a Dustbringer or
Stoneward?
yes, thank you.
I wanted Windrunner.
I
I'm
think the
basic.
problem. See, in one of the stories I'm writing, I want to bring in Spren into it, and I'm like, okay, I got this character who would fit. I can basically rewrite in a way that can fit any type of order I want. But the problem is, I don't know the ideals to like any of the other orders. I don't know their powers or what they're capable of. Brandon has only given us like Windrunner.
No.
We know Edge Dancers or Edge Dancer oaths as well. We know some of the Will Shapers oaths. We know that Lightweavers are Sage Truths. We know all of the Sky
Yeah, but there's a difference between like having a concept of it and like having examples. Like we can make
it's totally
versions of
okay
Windrunners.
because
I just-
even the Windrunners have different oaths for each one. They're just thematically appropriate. Like
But you can tell like how they can be differently or tied to a person. Whilst with Lift, I will remember those who have been forgotten. That seems like a just general all Edge Dancers say this. Like, how does that get tied to your specific person?
Well,
Like
she was dealing with orphans at the time, so what could be more forgotten than a child who was abandoned?
Yeah, but I'm wondering, is that sort of like how all Skybreakers have these specific ones that they do, kind of, or is it
maybe? I think
Windrunner-esque, where it can
probably
change by person?
I feel like it's that one because I feel like if it was a person who had been a chaplain in the military, it would be I will remember those who have fallen before me, and that kind of a thing. So I think there's room for
we don't have any other examples for it. That's my thing, is I have nothing really. I've got one example, and Lift is weird. Half of our characters are weird.
I get the sense.
So be creative and make up your own.
Interesting.
I get the sense the whole idea behind like these words are accepted is that there's no true words. Like the most important words a man can say are whatever that man needs to say at that time. It's just whenever he accepts that virtue.
Yeah.
Like I think that that lends it towards being like more open for everyone to have their own individual oaths.
Well, and like within the Edge Dancer book with Lift, like she had already said the oath, the third oath herself to herself, and she had already accepted it within her own heart and but so she didn't need to say the words out loud.
But couldn't she only use Windle as a sword
she was able to use...
spoke it?
No, I think she spoke it after she had already used him as a
blunt force a baton.
You're going to hit me.
As a
but like, wasn't there a whole thing like you need to say it? And she's like, "Fine, I will." What was her second? It was
her second was, "I will listen to those who have been ignored."
That's the one. What's the third? I will smell those who are scentless.
The
remember those who have been forgotten.
No, so the second one so the first one is the same as it for everyone.
True.
The second oath is, "I will remember those who have been forgotten." The third one is, "I will listen to those who have been ignored." Because that's when she's wandering around the city and she's listening to all of the people and all of their problems and what's going on in the city. She's very focused on hearing what's going on, and that's how she's able to figure out, like...
Yeah. It's just when I want to do something that's directly Cosmere. Like, if I'm doing... Like, there's one story I read where somebody did, Valor is the shard of the My Hero Academia universe. And they've got a spread that's a combination of Valor Light and Honor Light, and they name it Hero Light. That means that can be whatever I want it to be, because this is a whole new thing that's probably not going to be seen. But if I'm having a literal honor spread onto a person, I want to make sure that what I do is cosmerically correct. You guys don't need to proofread my stories. I'm sorry. We can get to the actual thing we're here for.
I think you're allowed to take creative license.
Yeah.
I think I am. It's just like in my mind, like if I do something and then Brandon 2 books later does something that says that's not possible, I'm like,
well, but then it's just then that happens, and you just move on, because like you can't know what's gonna happen in the future. So like that shouldn't prevent you from wanting to do something now, though.
True. Thank you.
There's nothing says you can't give Skybreakers regrowth if you wanted to either. Like
Yeah, 'cause
it's
there's this
your
whole
story.
Yeah.
The more you
I just
base it
had-
on like Cosmere stuff, just the better chance you have of getting sued for copyright infringement. That's all.
Yeah, or having a horrible article written about you.
Yeah.
If people are going to write horrible articles about the authors of fan fictions, I think they need a better hobby.
That is true. I'm one of shoot. What is the website?
You know what?
I can't
That's
remember,
a
but I'm
good
actually
hobby,
listed.
isn't
You review fan fiction.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just absolutely
Okay, but
just rip it to shreds. Like take it completely way too seriously.
make a podcast on it.
Yeah. Fan fiction connections.
Here's my fanfic, episode 7, but it doesn't suck.
Now that I can get behind.
Right?
Do it like the Talking Dead, the after show.
Yeah.
I'm making references people don't
I
know.
haven't watched it, so.
Has anyone been watching The Last of Us?
Neither
I guess
do I.
they have a podcast that's pretty much the same idea.
I never played the game, and I've been in the UK. We don't have HBO Max, so I was never able to watch it.
Oh, well, you gotta get NordVPN. NordVPN.
Uh-huh.
Subscribe to Cosmere Connections. Get half off. Or you use code. Just kidding.
Yes.
One of these days.
I think we should actually do that and see if Nord picks us up.
Yeah, we should send him a little clip of that. Be like, hey, how natural
I was more
that?
thinking Goodreads.
Goodreads, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. We're gonna do I just wanted Kay to be aware that probably at the beginning of the spoilers section, we're gonna bring up some of our notes from last episode because we really did not know what we were going on about.
Yeah, there are a couple
At
details.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got a little slap happy last time.
We did.
It
We
was
needed a
fun.
moderator. It got bad.
How does it feel to work even when you're not working? You keep cutting out.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's weird.
Everybody kind of cuts up for me, but it seems to be fine. As long as Swiggity's audio doesn't cut out, I think we're good.
Everybody's been pretty good so far.
Okay.
And
Maybe it's
you're
just
back.
me.
And you're back in the U.S. now, right, Reader?
Yep. I'm here until not this upcoming Wednesday, but the next one.
Very nice.
That's why I've got my awesome hat. This thing is amazing. You'll never guess who made it. They're a genius. Very artful and skillful.
Was it human? I bet it was human.
I wish.
Whomever they are, they're probably essential to this podcast.
Mhm.
Listen,
If it
you
was
guys,
human, it would be a skull cap.
it just shows that you guys can't do this without me because you guys were struggling last time. It sounds like.
Absolutely.
There
It's
were a few
100%
points that
true.
could have used clarification, and we definitely could have used an arrow to point us that way.
It was chaos.
We were like, is this an actual thing? I don't know. Was this going to be a spoiler down the line? I don't know.
Sorry.
Also, side note, but are we gonna make a
Secret
channel
Project 2?
yeah,
A what?
What now?
a Secret Project 2 channel?
Oh, an episode or
No.
a channel? Oh, I see what you mean.
I mean, we should do both, really.
Yeah.
What's here? I'll make it real quick. So, Secret Project, and what's the name of it?
It
Frugal
is
Wizard's Guide to something.
Medieval
Europe.
England. Medieval England.
England.
Okay,
sorry.
can you do that just by doing the first letter of the title?
FWGTME.
Oy, oy, oy.
That's spelled
Who
right.
gods?
Target me!
Welcome to
Look at the
Welcome to Strong Bad Email.
But there you go. I have not read it yet.
I'm probably about not quite halfway through, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how far I am. I would have to look at my phone, and my phone's
Shit's
not
still
next to
weird.
me.
I'm not really sure where I'm at, but I think half is probably about accurate.
Yeah, I'm in part 2. That's
Oh, I'm
all
not
I
that far
know.
yet.
That's all I know.
Oh, actually, I'm only on chapter 11.
So am I the farthest out of everyone then?
Oh, I gotta take over that
Yeah.
throne.
No, depending on how much I have left, I might finish it tomorrow.
This is
I will not.
this is the first one. Like, I kind of wish Brandon Sanderson was narrating this one
Oh,
himself.
maybe I am in part 2. I'm 52% done. And I will, in fact, finish it tomorrow.
I feel like the way
There's
he
only 3
reads
hours left.
fits this book so well.
I think it would be fun to have. It would have been fun to have a different narrator for the audiobook.
Yeah, for this.
Like, I love Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, but like, I think it would have been fun to have someone else be narrating it since it's non-Cosmere.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Oh, they could have got the guy who did the Steelheart audiobooks.
Yeah,
Oh, that would have been cool.
because all of the other non-Cosmere books have a different narrator.
Except for the Wheel of Time books.
Well,
That's only kind of his.
Yeah, that's only like his, like, kind of his.
should have got the guy
Also,
Jim Dale. Yeah. Oh, Harry.
apparently
Oh,
he wanted to talk to Henry Cavill about narrating,
That would have been
Oh,
cool.
jeez.
but he decided against
No.
it because of the short timeline.
Oh, what's his name? He was in Buffy, the guy who does the Harry Dresden books.
Never watched
Nope.
it. Sorry.
Have not listened to the Harry Dresden books yet.
Oh my god, you need to read the Dresden
I know.
Files.
No, so I tried to read the first one when I was in high school, but I think I was too, like, I just couldn't get into it.
Dresden Files.
But both my parents love the Dresden Files, so like
Highly
I
acclaimed.
do want to
series.
try it. I do want to try and read them again, but I just haven't gotten around to it. That's probably gonna be the next thing I'll read. Might
I
do
think
that next.
the book Deadbeat, I think it's like book 4 or 5, has one of the coolest moments in all of science fiction fantasy. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's so cool. I'm not going to spoil it because it's just too cool.
yeah. I remember liking it, but I don't know why I never finished. I didn't finish the first one. I think I might have gotten distracted by something.
That would make sense. The first one is kind of one of the slower ones. It's really book 3 where it just starts to like really like get super good.
Yeah.
In like 5-10 years, when we finally catch up with the Cosmere and we have to actually think of new things to do, we should do segments on like non-Cosmere connections where we take like our favorite books and try to incorporate how they fit into the Cosmere, either with like the magic systems or
James Marsters, that's his name. I knew it would come to me. I didn't even have a chance to finish typing it out, and I was like, yes!
Wait, so how would that work? Like,
How would it
just
work?
like here's like let's say I wouldn't say we would do like the whole book like we were doing for this, but maybe like one episode for one book. It's like here's top of my head Pendragon, the Merchant of Death. Or we can do like the whole series, it doesn't matter. And like they use this type of magic, this kind of incorporates into this, and we can explain it via Cosmere with this, or like here's a shard that would aspect this kind of book series. I'm kind of like, or even with like Herbie or something as stupid as that. Herbie is a card that's sentient because it's invested by autonomy.
I like this idea, except I think we should do it just for Harry Potter, and we should just try to like explain, like we should come up with like actual reasoning behind the magic system of that world instead of just how it's all just like, yeah, it's magic.
I already do that whenever I read something or watch something now.
Sure.
Well, you
So-
see, Voldemort had a special connection to Harry Potter's soul.
Okay,
You're a ferrochemist, Harry.
so I would like to point out we messed up the initials for the Secret Project 2.
Blasphemy.
Yeah,
It's not forgettable.
because it's WHFSME.
Okay. FW what?
H
H
F
F
S
S
Oh, yeah, Handbook for Surviving Medieval
M.
England.
E.
E. And that's it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. Not guidebook.
So it's now
Pwosma.
Woofs me.
Pwosma.
Do we want to get to what we're here for?
We should probably.
What?
No.
Get to what we're here for. What are you
Time to get to
talking
work for a
about?
living.
Yeah,
Okay. Anything
let's-
before we get started?
I like turtles.